Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about black cocoa powder. I had a few questions after the last video that we did where we discussed natural cocoa powder and Dutch processed. We mentioned black cocoa and touched on it just to say that, black cocoa is kind of on the other end of the spectrum, but we didn't really get into it. What is black cocoa powder? Black cocoa powder is a type of cocoa powder that undergoes a significant Dutching process, similar to the process that Dutch processed cocoa powder goes under, alkalizing those cocoa beans after roasting to neutralize the pH. The difference is with black cocoa powder, this alkalization process is even more extensive than it is in Dutch processed. What does that mean? What does that mean practically in terms of how we use it or what it tastes like? First of all, visually you can see what that means. So black cocoa powder is, in my opinion, almost black. I don't think it's quite black, but it's so close to being black. This super dark, beautiful cocoa powder. It also has a different flavor profile. So I think that alkalization process mellows out the flavor of the cocoa powder a little bit more. Some people claim that they think it's more intensely chocolate flavor. I actually will tend to disagree. Agree with the people that think that chocolatey flavor is mellowed out a little bit. Super smooth. The thing that it is associated the most with is an Oreo cookie. So think Oreo cookie, that flavor profile, okay? That chocolatey, it's intense, it's not bitter, super yummy, and that color, right? That striking dark color. Couple things to keep in mind when using black cocoa powder. You don't want to swap this out, okay? This isn't interchangeable with other cocoa powders that are in a recipe without understanding a little bit of the science behind it. What I'm getting at is that because our black cocoa powder is not acidic like a natural cocoa powder would be, and we talked about this in the baking soda versus baking powder video, this black cocoa powder will not react with baking soda to get the rise that you need in your baked goods. In fact, you will need baking powder, because baking powder, like we discussed in the previous video, it has that acid already mixed into the baking powder and just needs the water. So if you're using black cocoa powder, you're going to need baking powder to create those little CO2 bubbles to create that rise in your product, okay? So when might you want to use this? There's a few fun applications for black cocoa powder. I'll be honest, I don't use it regularly, but when you want that Oreo cookie flavor, we make something that's an adult version of an Oreo cookie. So we call it a black cocoa cookie. If you've heard of a black velvet cake, that's another use for your black cocoa powder. You can also use it as a substitution for black food coloring, okay? Keep in mind, however, this does have a chocolatey flavor to it. So if you do that, then whatever you're coloring will have a chocolatey taste to it. But that's a nice way to get a really dark color to, maybe a chocolate buttercream or something like that, maybe a chocolate cake. Anytime you want that flavor profile of, again, I'm going to go back to it, but the Oreo cookie, that's when you're going to want to use the black cocoa powder. I hope that cleared some things up about black cocoa powder. Let me know if you have any other questions or ideas for videos or things you'd like me to discuss in the future, and I hope you check out some of the other videos that we've made. Thanks.